Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Padfoot Live Get Training. It's a beautiful day up on the Oval. We've just finished our weekly training club session today, where we had loads of people working on place command, which we're actually going to show you at the end of this episode today. Just keep it nice and consistent, and hopefully help those guys who were here today. Serves as a bit of a reminder for them what they covered.
And for anyone who's planning on coming tomorrow and Monday night, this is what we'll be working on.
Absolutely. Okay. So just for those of you who aren't aware, our training club runs on a Saturday morning, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. Monday evening, and is open to anybody who's in our foundation course currently or has been a client previously. So you're welcome to come along, have some fun, work on a few things under Courtney's guidance with everybody else here. Great. Okay, so we wanted to cover a few different things today. Firstly, we're going to talk a little bit about slip leads, why we use slip leads, how you use slip leads. We're then going to talk about bark collars. There's been a couple of questions recently around bark collars. What do we think of bark collars? How are they used? What are the pros and cons? So we're going to cover that off. In our masterclass section today, Courtney, who is a qualified canine nutritionist, is going to talk us through some of the basics of some of the thinking around canine nutrition. And then in terms of Buddy's trick of the week at the end, we use Buddy or Jimmy?
We use Buddy.
Use Buddy. So Buddy's trick of the week is going to be the place, as I mentioned previously. Okay, so firstly talking about slip leads. Now the reason we like slip leads is because basically they've got less bits that can go wrong. Slip leads are, at essence, a noose that tightens or loosens, around the dog's neck, made of nice soft material so it doesn't hurt them. But there's no real, metal parts and that kind of thing. So
nothing to rust.
Nothing to rust, exactly. So if you go to the beach, quite often a clip, a little snap, lead will often fail you. You get sand, salt in there. It's really, really bad, and presents a danger to you and to your dog. So we use slip leads. These are the ones that we use here. And these are the ones we actually make ourselves and we sell via the website. But they are simply ones that we've kind of developed over a number of years, and these have zero metal parts. So a lot of the ones you'll buy in the stores, have some metal rings and so on. We decided that wasn't really necessary. It introduced another point of failure to the thing. And so we've designed these ones that simply use knots, to actually hold it all together. So there's no points of failure. If anything, the knots will tighten over time and salt and all that kind of thing. So they're actually just going to be getting stronger over time. Also, the beauty of a slip lead, of course, is you can see the damage. So with a leather lead, sometimes a metal lead, anything like that, you can't actually see where it's becoming weak. Whereas this one, you can see if there's any point. You can see where any points of weakness over time, and then just replace it. The way.
Also, you don't have two pieces, it's just one piece instead of a collar and a lead.
Exactly right.
And easy to find with the collar. It's important for people like me with messy cars.
Exactly. So, obviously you probably have to wear your flat collar still, for, to have your dog tag on and all that kind of stuff, but, using these, gives you a lot more control. Now, the reason I like using these is firstly, that science has shown that actually less damage is occurred by dogs who pull on the lead from a slip lead or even a prong collar. We're not recommending that people do that because it's a specialised tool, but actually science has shown that there's less neck damage to dogs wearing one of those kind of devices than a flat collar and lead.
Well, and I think the reason behind that, guys, and I think it's important to understand, is there's no magic tool. But using something like a slip lead or a prong collar, which is, highest level, as James was saying, you're communicating with the dog, and it makes it easier to do that training that needs to happen with any tool for your dog to understand how to walk on the lead. Really, a dog wearing a slip lead or a check chain or a prong collar, whatever it is realistically probably doing a lot less damage to themselves than their dog that's constantly pulling on that flat collar on their throat.
Absolutely. And the reason that I like these, particularly in training, is that we can actually then, because it applies a sensation to your dog. So if you put it on right, if you use it correctly, if your dog pulls against it, it tightens, but as soon as they back off the tension, it loosens, just naturally.
They get control.
It gives them control of that, and it also means you can actually teach them to avoid that sensation.
Yes.
So the sensation of a loose lead around their neck, they realise that means go. We are moving forward. It's all good. As soon as that tightens, then we can teach them that means stop. So they're not going to get anywhere. It teaches them basically
Check yourself. What are you doing?
Exactly right. So it just provides that bit more of a sensation. It's exactly the same principle as you would use on a on a check chain, or a prong collar and so on. It's about giving them a sensation that
even a halty.
That they can read. Exactly. So that's why we like to use these. These, we make these from equestrian rope, so they're polyester, they're soft. Soft leads. They're nice, gentle around the neck. We make them in various different thicknesses and weights. So this is a thickness that's probably about maybe a centimetre thick, something like that, a little bit less.
I'm horrible.
Something like that. This is from the person who told me off last week for taking the feet. Anyway, about a centimetre thick, if a little bit less. 0.8 of a centimetre maybe. And this is the thickest one we make. This is for medium-sized big dogs.
The jimmies.
Yeah, the jimmies of the world. Or we make, one that's even thinner than this. That's for the smaller dogs and the ones that really don't need that sensation. It's super light. It's almost imperceptible.
Well, and that smaller one is also, because it's made from flat rein rope, it's actually perfect for making, you can turn it into a figure eight and use it as a halty if you actually need be. Without it kind of this over the top of a bridge of a nose might stick up a little bit. That flat one sits nice and still.
Exactly right. So the way you use a slip lead, just very quickly, and obviously if anybody wants any special information, then come along and see us, and we can provide some guidance. But basically you have to decide which side of your body you walk your dog on, and be consistent with that. That's the most important thing. So if your dog walks on your left, you want to make a P with it. Now that is a P from my perspective. Maybe that's a P from the camera's perspective. I don't know. Sometimes the camera reverses things, but basically you're looking to make a P shape with it, and then you drop it straight down over your dog's head.
So it should be the long end comes over the top towards you.
If you're walking a dog on the right, the opposite is true. You're making a Q, and again dropping it straight down with the long end coming towards you. The reason we do that is because it means that the lead can flow freely back and forth between the loop. If you inverted it on the left, you end up with a bend in it, which is going to stop it from actually moving. And that's the main reason. We want it to be free and loose. Okay?
So that dog has control. When they do the right thing and they back off or they come back to us, it loosens up. Like we were saying, all of that communication.
Exactly. So any other questions on that, please do put them in the comments and we'll answer. If you want slip leads, you can get these from padfoot.com.au. And these are the ones that we use, we make ourselves. We actually commission this special Padfoot colours, rope, which personally I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of it. I like it. But it's the only colour we offer, so take it or leave it, basically. Okay, the next thing we wanted to cover was a little bit around bark collars. So we seem to be talking about collars and things a lot today. Tools. Bark collars, to me, I'm not a fan. I don't know, what do you think?
I think in their correct application they can be used, but I don't think that the average person should be putting one on their dog.
Exactly. So, the way bark collars work is by suppressing an output. Okay? Simple as that. So whether it's a citronella bark collar, whether it's an electric bark collar, whether it's anything like that, the way it works is your dog barks and it gets an unpleasant, it is
an aversive experience.
An unpleasant experience is dispensed. So your dog will learn not to do that behaviour. I have two issues with this, two fundamental issues. The first issue is that it does not solve the cause. So we're not looking at what is happening in your dog's environment to cause them to bark.
Because I think a lot of people, they have this opinion that barking is a natural thing, and I mean it is, but excessive barking is not.
No, exactly.
That's your dog being stressed.
So by using a bark collar, if your dog is excessively barking caused by stress, you are simply adding more stress to that situation. You are not solving the problem. You may be solving the problem if your neighbour's complaining, but you're not solving the problem from your dog's perspective. In fact, you're making it worse. Which I don't think is the right or kind.
That's not what anyone wants.
That's one issue with them. I think the other issue is that, as Courtney said, people just don't really understand, how to use them properly. And so if people, are using this tool blindly as a mechanism to stop their dog from barking, you've got to think about the benefits of your dog barking. You know, to you. So as we were talking before, we were talking about the excessive barking. Yeah, that's bad. You know, stress-related behaviour and so on. But it's stress-related, and barking could be used, you know, by your dog as a mechanism, you know, pre an escalation of behaviour. So, yeah, for example, to bite.
Yes.
Now, if you've got a dog that's fearful of other dogs, you know, and you take away its ability, within itself to warn other dogs off.
To say, hey, back off.
Yep, you are potentially setting yourself up for a situation where your dog will just go in straight in, bite. Because it does not feel it has any other recourse.
Option, no.
You know? Those are the main problems, you know, with those situations. So what I would strongly encourage you to do is, if you've got a problem, you know, with your dog barking, you know, stress-related barking, nuisance, excessive barking, please contact a canine behaviourist. You know, I mean, we're happy to help. There's other people on the coast. We're not saying you have to come to us.
But just someone.
I mean, you know, if you like us, come to us. You know, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, go to somebody. You know, but don't go to the people, you know, that, you know, promote their ability to stop barking. Because
don't go to the pet store and listen to the guy behind the counter. I mean, they mean well, but they're not professionals.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also, I mean, there are some trainers around, you know, that sort of brand themselves as, you know, like we are experts in stopping your dog from barking. Arguably, stopping your dog from barking is the easy bit. You know, we can use a version. We can stop your dog from barking. That's not helping your dog. It's not, and potentially it's setting up, you know, for.
And I would argue it's not a long-term fix.
No, exactly. So I would strongly encourage you to, you know, to speak to to qualified, science-based, you know, canine behaviourists, ones that really emphasise using, you know, positive, over negative primarily, you know, to solve these problems, and ones that are really interested in getting to the root cause.
Yes, they want to know why.
Issue. Exactly. And they're working to solve that, not the
symptom.
Not the symptom. Okay. Any questions on that? Please do put them in the comments. We're more than happy, to elaborate. On that. Okay. I think that's enough from me now. I think it's now time to hear from Courtney, who's going to be talking all about nutrition.
Awesome. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a brief intro into nutrition and some of the things that if you guys did want to go book a nutritional consult or needed help with formulating a diet, the stuff that we would be talking about. So these days, unfortunately, in my opinion, a lot of dogs are eating really highly processed diets. And unfortunately, that's what most of the vets will be recommending to your pets, just because of the fact that again, unfortunately, their education is all paid for by those big brands. So, fun little fact, Mars actually makes more money from selling pet food to your dogs than it does from confectionery or anything else. It's big money, and there's no regulation really in the dog food industry. So a lot of those claims and things on the front of the big fancy bag that you're spending a lot of money on are just claims, like that there's nothing really to them. When we're looking at foods, you should be looking for things that are the lowest amount of carbohydrates you can find. If there is corn or rice or peas, God, the list goes on of all these starchy stuff. If that's anywhere in those first few ingredients on your bag of dog food, I really please send us a message. Let's get talking. Dogs should be eating meat, bone, organs, and a little bit of fruit and veg in there just to help round everything out. So our dogs are actually, they're called, I'm going to mess this up, facultative carnivores. I think I got that right.
Wow.
So cats are obligate carnivores. If you don't feed them meat, they will die. They just can't do it. Their bodies aren't made to handle that kind of stuff. Dogs can survive on plant matter, right? So they have a very limited. No, exactly. There is a major difference between surviving and thriving. That's one of my best quotes. So yeah, you can just survive just fine. But, you know, if you want your dog to be really thriving, they need to be eating a biologically appropriate diet. Please don't see a bag of kibble with biologically appropriate written on the front and think, oh, that's what Corny's recommending, because it is not. But yeah, so the basis of your guys' of your dog's diet should be those animal protein or animal protein based things. So meat, And then your organs, super important. So they're like the multivitamins for your dogs. They need to be included in the diet. I know they're gross. There is ways around that we don't have to be handling kidney and liver and all this stuff in our kitchen. Bone, again, I know a lot of people are afraid of bone. As long as they're raw and we're feeding the right type of bones, again, critical part of their diet. So anyone who is also at home feeding their dog, cooked mince with rice and veggies, again, please have a chat with me. Your dog really is getting almost nothing out of the rice, the oats, all that kind of stuff. The veggies they get a little bit out of, but really they should make up 5 to 10% of the diet. The rest of that should be bone, organ, and meat. And I mean, really, that affects our brains. So the reason why James and I are so into this with training is if you get a dog on the field and they're eating nothing but essentially McDonald's for dogs every day of their life, how is their brain functioning? I mean, do you go and take your kids to McDonald's to go get a cheeseburger right before you drop them off at school to try to learn some things? Like, we need to be fueling our dogs for the correct activity.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think there's a couple of interesting points there. So, I mean, firstly, if you look at some of the large manufacturers, certainly a lot of the budget brands,
Yes.
their main driver is obviously to keep you purchasing that brand. The best way for them to do that is make sure your dog likes that brand. And is getting excited
full
about
of
it.
salt.
Exactly, which means it is the Maccas, the KFC, the Hungry Jacks.
It's the convenience food of the world.
Food. It's full of salt, it's full of sugar, it's full of all of that kind of stuff. There's other pet foods that are more nutritionally balanced.
Yeah, 100%.
And arguably for some people who really can't wrap their head around the concept of, and the challenges of making sure you're feeding your dog a balanced diet.
There are some high quality products that I can recommend.
Exactly.
But then also there's DIY pre-made, fully complete raw foods that you just put into the bowl.
Yeah, exactly. So nowadays there are options, but we're not saying necessarily that all of the kibble, is bad. No. There are some superior, types. There are some,
Unfortunately, I would argue though that a majority of kibble.
No, absolutely, the majority, and you'll generally find that the ones that are actually affordable are the ones you don't want to be given.
Yes,
I would say.
Unfortunately.
I mean, again,
I find it cheaper actually personally with a lot of dogs to feed my dogs raw now than it was when I was feeding them high quality kibbles.
A short story. A couple of years ago, a few years ago now, I did some consulting for a business that developed kibble.
Yep.
And they actually, they did it properly. They formulated it. They actually took the information on your dog's, particular breeds, dietary requirements, and they custom, formulated a blend for you that it was delivered to your door every month.
Yes, I've seen those.
So it's an interesting business. The most interesting bit I found about it was that when we were looking at it, about 50% of the dogs didn't like the kibble because it was good for them. And when we actually looked back into the data to work out the correlation, it was those dogs that had been fed on the Macca's kibbles previously. So these dogs,
you will find that with some of the high quality kibbles, and that's why sometimes for those dogs going to that raw option of this is tasty and wet and it stinks.
Exactly. And if you, as you can imagine, you take a person that's been fed exclusively on Macca's 3 times a day, and then you lay out a beautiful piece of steamed fish,
and
some lovely vegetables and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
they're not going to be very happy with that. But we all know that is much better for them. So that's really what we wanted to cover off there.
Yeah.
Obviously, as I've said, Courtney is available. You can book Courtney either for a very, very quick just telephone consult, just to chat about nutrition.
Chat about better kibbles you could be feeding, things you could add to your bowl. It doesn't have to be a full-blown diet change.
No, exactly. So there's that, or Courtney's available to help develop a custom diet plan for your dog.
Yes.
So if you'd like to book any of those things, as we said last week, our website, payments facilities currently aren't working. So what you can do is just email team@padfoot.com.au.
Yep.
And Melissa back in the HQ,
Melissa.
in the head office. I think she's taking the kids surfing. I think she's there today.
Oh.
But beautiful day on surf. So we'll respond, and we'll get that booked in and get that all organised for you. Okay.
Can I grab that? I'll grab Buddy.
Lead. Going to grab Buddy, and we're going to then start working on the trick. So just bear with us just for a second. But as we say, the important thing with nutrition is to really, really, it is, as it is with all of us, it's the fuel that powers your dog. It's what a lot of, stomach upsets, a lot of behavioural issues, may may be originating from. You know, we all know what it's like if we have, you know, too much sugar, too much, you know, crap in our diets. We feel de-energized. You know, we're not performing at our best. And so thinking about all those things when it comes to your dog as well, you know, is really, really important.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Awesome.
place.
Awesome. So trick of the week this week is place, guys. So this one is one I'm a big fan of for cafes. It's another one that can be kind of combined with, you know, I've talked about the art of doing nothing in the past, you know, combining that. So the idea is I'm going to ask Buddy to go, that's his place, right? When I say place, I'm going to ask him to go sit on that towel. When I'm going to mark him, so the criteria for this exercise is once he's got all 4 feet on that mat, that's when I'm going to mark him at this point. Eventually you can start building duration on it, but in the very beginning stages, we're just going to be teaching them what place means. When I say place, I want you to go find your bed, your mat, wherever it is that you've designated to them is their place.
Yeah. When Courtney says mark the behaviour as well, we've talked about this in previous weeks, so please recap on some of the previous videos if you're in our current foundation group.
And you're unsure what that means.
We also talked about this in length in week 1, so please do check back on the week 1 video just to remind yourself what we're talking about.
Perfect. Good comment.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'll get out there and start with him now. So like I said, once he's clear on what the command place means, then it's just as simple as building up that duration like we do in our stay and in everything really. So it's a nice natural progression. Buddy, come on, let's go. All right, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little lure in my hand. You guys know we're a fan of luring. I'm going to say the word place, and with this lure, I'm going to kind of point and guide him onto that mat. Once all 4 feet are touching it, I'm going to say yes and release that food to him. Awesome. Buddy, place. Yes. Awesome. So with this exercise, I don't care if he's sitting, I don't care if he stands, I don't care if he drops. The idea is I've asked him to stay in that area, and as long as he's on that, I'm happy. So this would be something while I'm running a class, I would put Buddy on place. I don't care if he gets up and twists around and moves a little bit. He's not in a very, very firm position stay, but he can't leave that area. That's the idea of place. So you can see where when you go to a cafe, it's really nice to have like a little towel or a little mat rolled up in the back of your car, grab it, put it down, and just not have to worry about the dog. They understand what's happening. They're just going to chill here on their spot and relax, and that's all they have to do. I'll do another little repetition of that with you guys, and I might even try it from a different angle just to show you guys. Right. Buddy, place. Yes! Awesome, so that was a good one. You could see his last little foot was hanging back there, right? So I waited for him to bring that up. As soon as his last foot was on the mat, that's when he got his reward.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
That's great.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Buddy. Thank you, Buddy, for modelling the
slip lead.
the Padfoot slip lead as well. Okay, so that's us for this week. Any questions, guys, please do put them in the comments as usual, and please join us back here 8 o'clock next Saturday for more Padfoot Live Get Training. Have a great week. Take care.
Thanks, guys.